All of you are aware, we are surrounded by coronavirus all over the place, all over the world. So it has really affected our daily lives, our workplaces, our homes, and it has even gone to our nerves to a certain extent. So I'd like to uh, discuss the impact of coronavirus in the Gulf region, that is the region where I stay and I have settled here since last 10 years. Change the slide. A hearty welcome to all of you from Doha, Qatar. A very good evening to all of you. To some of you, it may be morning, so very good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste to all of you. I'm Dr. Acharya. I work as consultant ENT in the Primary Healthcare Corporation in the government of Qatar. I have no conflict of interest in this presentation, and there is no financial arrangement with anybody. Now, coming straight to the topic, the source of the coronavirus can be traced to the wet market in the Wuhan in China, where meat of live and dead animals is sold since ages. So the official version is that original host of the virus was a bat, and these coronaviruses are a family of viruses that cause diseases in many animals. Out of these 7 of the viruses within this family and the new one, they have made jump across the interspecies, and they have successfully infected human beings, causing flu-like symptoms. So we should understand from where we get this coronavirus or the COVID-19 term. The nomenclature is very important. On the last day of 2019, 41 patients were detected with pneumonia of unidentified origin in the Wuhan city of Hubei province in China. The identification of the causative organism was done from the throat swabs from the CCDC, that is the Chinese Center for Disease Control, on the 7th of January this year. And this was named as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2. And World Health Organization in February this year named the disease as COVID-19. This is how COVID-19 came into being, and thousands of hundreds are dead and infected all over the world, making it a global threat, thus causing the pandemic. A brief look at the history. The COVID-19 virus is similar and closely related to the acute upper respiratory syndrome virus, the SARS virus. This infected about 8,000 people and killed approximately 800 people between 2002 and 2003. The MERS virus, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus, is another significant coronavirus which emerged in 2012, killing approximately 900 persons and infecting 2.5 thousand others. This COVID-19 disease differs from these by the fact that its spectrum of disease is wider and most infections are mild. And the main point to be highlighted here is large number of people carrying this disease is asymptomatic, thereby causing it harder to control. A look at the initial presenting symptoms: fatigue, fever, dry, productive cough. Now here some workers say that it's a dry cough, some workers say it's an expectorant cough. So there's a confusion between the two, but both symptoms can be seen in the presentation of COVID-19. So I've included both dry as well as productive cough. Shortness of breath, chest compression, myalgia, diarrhea, vomiting, anorexia, headache, sore throat, dizziness, palpitation, and chest pain. And one more presenting symptoms is definitely there. It is coming up these days. Certain skin dermatological manifestations, skin manifestations can be seen in certain patients. Certain subsequent identifiable symptoms, a European multi-center study concluded olfactory symptoms, which is loss of smell, we call it anosmia. Gustatory symptoms, loss of taste, we call it ageusia. These may or may not be associated with other nasal or paranasal sinus complaints. Therefore, it is of utmost importance to evaluate the number of predictive symptoms of this disease so that we can make a decision for self-isolation to contain the spread of the infection. A brief look at the COVID-19 in the GCC. I'll restrict myself to the GCC, and especially with reference to the country where I reside, it is Qatar, because there is no traveling in the last 4 to 5 months. Even newspapers are not in circulation. Only about a couple of weeks back, we have started receiving the newspapers because of the COVID crisis. So our only source of information remains the electronic media, that is the internet and the television channels. So the print media is absolutely absent. Now it is in vogue, but till a couple of weeks back it was absolutely absent. So a look at the COVID situation in the GCC. GCC stands for the Gulf Cooperation Council. If you are not aware, the Gulf Cooperation Council consists of certain number of countries in the Arabian Gulf. All governments and they continue to grapple with how to stop the spread of novel coronavirus by implementing certain lockdowns, travel restrictions, border closures, etc. So these countries, they have taken unprecedented moves like stopping public prayers. Even Eid prayers have been stopped in public, restricting entry of individuals, and starting work from home policies, ensuring closure of malls, restaurants, coffee shops, public parks, etc. But super essential services like supermarkets, pharmacies, and food deliveries are exempted, ensuring full protection for employees as well as customers. The customers who are entering the malls to buy the essentials, and they are checked for their temperature. Sanitizers are being given to them. They have been asked to wear gloves and masks. And the food deliveries, the persons, they are wearing the masks and the gloves and taking full precaution. So, and strict quarantine measures are being implemented. Social measures is very important. Extensive testing is being conducted in most places. Unlike many countries, even the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros, also insisted on this test, test, and test. Then they followed some other policy. Again, they have come back to the test, test, and test policy. So, extensive testing is very necessary. Governments of certain regions, they are extending free of cost treatment and quarantine facilities to people who cannot afford to pay. This is unlike many countries where poor people are being denied the treatment and government facilities are overflowing. Ensuring pre-testing before essential travel and otherwise requesting people mostly not to travel. And no new work permits are being issued as of now. There is ban on shisha pipes. Some part of the world they call it hookah also, the nightclubs, social events, and prevention of large gatherings is also being ensured. There is curbs on public transport like taxis and buses. And there's this last but not the least, but this very important, arresting of people who spread rumors and fake news about spread of coronavirus. in this day of digital world, there's a lot of people who spread fake rumors, uh, uh, fake news, and spread rumors. So these rumor mongers, they need to be arrested rightly, and they're being done, and it is being done so here. A look at the coronavirus infections in the MENA region, as we call it. MENA is Middle East and North Africa region. So there are three columns of confirmed cases, deaths, and recoveries. So if we have a look at the first three, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, we can see the number of deaths. It's more than 15,000 in Iran, more than 2,000 in Saudi Arabia, more than 5,000 in Turkey. Okay, so this is and even Iraq has about 4,000. You can compare this with the Qatar figures. If you see, it is only 165. Today's figure is 166. This is yesterday's figures, 165. So about a lakh patients have become okay in Qatar, and about 1 lakh people have been infected also. So the tragic figures is from the Iran and Saudi Arabia and Turkey, so to say. And the other countries, they are just hovering quite well. Bahrain has a low number, then, but Egypt has more than 4,000 plus deaths. And then we have certain countries like Morocco, Sudan, Palestine, uh, Djibouti, Lebanon, Libya, Yemen, Tunisia, Jordan, Syria, Eritrea. Syria shows very less numbers, but I doubt the reporting from there. So uh, reporting is again another issue which has to be taken into account while taking for these figures. This is a very interesting video. Let's have a look at this 2-minute video. How Abu Dhabi airport in the UAE, they're screening for coronavirus. I think most COVID infected countries, they should go for this. This is a very interesting video. You can give me your feedback after this.
Touchdown to testing. Here's everything you need to know about Abu Dhabi International Airport's fight to curb COVID-19. If you're coming from a high-risk country, it starts here on the tarmac. Healthcare workers with thermal imaging thermometers board the plane and take passengers' temperatures. If your temperature is too high, you'll immediately be put in an ambulance. Other passengers board buses and go to an isolated part of the airport. If you're transiting through, you once again go through a thermal imaging scan. If you're staying in Abu Dhabi, you will be tested for the coronavirus.
From the airport, we've tested over 15,000 people, and we haven't had one positive return as yet. So that's on all arrival.
So, how does the testing actually work? Passengers register, collect a testing kit, and then a trained staff performs a nasal swab.
So, I'll be collecting a specimen at the back of your nose. So, I might get a little deep. You don't take any of the stuff, right? So, I can pick it, feeling of your
Sure.
but definitely it's manageable.
Okay. The test is sent to the lab, and results usually take just 24 hours. Walter Ballesteros, who's on his way from Thailand to the U.S., was impressed by the whole experience.
Pretty awesome. I mean, the way they've handled the situation getting off the plane, I was beyond excited. We've been hearing horror stories about what's happening in places like America, Europe, China, just this inability to cope with this disaster, and then here we are on the plane, swift, steadfast. Quite easy. I'm enjoying getting it best.
Even after the test, passengers go through one last thermal imaging scan before leaving. And after all that, new arrivals in Abu Dhabi are being asked to self-quarantine for 14 days. It's a comprehensive process, all geared at limiting the spread of the virus.
So, with respect to Qatar, similar types of drills testing environment is there at place at the HIA, that is the Hamad International Airport in Doha. As of now, entry is suspended except for except for the Qataris. All non-Qataris, they will be permitted to enter the country in the third phase, in the opening of the third phase of the lockdown, that is after a couple of days from the 1st of August. So it is proposed to open the HIA, the Hamad International Airport, to the residents and the citizens from 40 safe countries. Now, who are safe countries? Safe countries list contains names of countries which have internationally accredited COVID-19 testing centers and where spread is less. So these are the safe 40 countries from which people will be permitted to enter Qatar from 1st of August, that is after a couple of days. Because having accredited COVID testing centers is very important, because as you heard in the test, as you heard in the video, even for the airline passengers at Abu Dhabi, the result is being delivered within 24 hours. Ideally, the PCR test takes 4 to 5 hours. Within 4 to 5 hours, when I got my corona test done, I got the result within 4.5 hours. Here, I hear horror stories of people receiving the results, whether they're positive or negative. Even after 15 days, they don't know, so it's taking more than 2 weeks to deliver the results in some countries. Some places 7 days, average is minimum 4 to 5 days. So during this period, the people who are positive, they're going around like super spreaders, spreading this disease, and on being challenged socially, they're shouting that I am not COVID positive, so please leave me alone. So this is not the proper way how things should be done. So as of now, only chartered flights, cargo and transit flights are being allowed. Transit passengers can still travel via Doha, but they cannot leave the airport. We have a look at certain safety measures at the Hamad International Airport: smart screening and helmets for contactless temperature measurements, infrared thermal imaging, augmented reality display, mobile disinfection robots using ultraviolet lights in crucial areas, computer vision technologies to detect everyone is wearing masks or not. It is very important to wear a mask these days, and some people are wearing the mask but their nose and mouth is not covered. They're wearing the mask over the chin. It is not a chin guard. The mask is supposed to cover the nose and the mouth. So, and here we can see the Qatar Airways crew. They are wearing the hazmat suits. In this photograph, you can see they are wearing the hazmat suits. So we'll have a look at the current scenario of ENT clinics in Qatar. Most vulnerable are the ENTs, the ophthalmologist, and the dentist. On a lighter note, we are the people, ENTs, ophthalmologists, and the dentist, who work above the necklace line, but still we are the most vulnerable to this COVID-19. So presently, we're not performing any cold or routine ENT surgeries. PPE, personal protection equipment, is a protection. It's a must in the OPDs, outpatient departments. Only teleconsultation and video conferencing was being done till a few days back, till 1 week back. But here I'd like to share my experience. 2/3 of the clientele, the 2/3 of the patients, they are not at all happy with teleconsultation and video conferencing. They insist on a face-to-face consultation with the doctor, thereby causing problems. Only 1/3, maybe only the literate class, maybe they are agreeing to the teleconsultation and video conferencing, and they are willing to come back later for a checkup. There are very few emergencies in ENT, mainly foreign bodies, epistaxis, fiber optic bronchoscopy, and tracheostomy. Only these things are being undertaken, but full hazmat suit is necessary if you are dealing with confirmed or suspected corona cases. This is myself in my office examining the ear nose, and throat, wearing the mask, gloves, face shield, headlight. So we are changing with each and every patient. We are changing the gloves, the face shields, the mask with every patient. For example, I saw 16 patients this morning. So I changed the face shield 16 times. I changed the gloves 16 times. I changed the mask 16 times. So this causes a lot of wastage. You can say wastage, but it is, I think, investment in the healthcare sector of time, money, and energy. It is very traumatic for the doctor, and it drains out a lot of wealth. Testing, swabbing is a must for all healthcare workers and employees of any medical institutions. Some people, even from the medical institution, doctors and nurses, they are running away from the testing. I don't know why. Every personnel could be a symptomatic carrier. I have myself, being a consultant, I have myself performed more than 250 swabbings at my hospital, and I have also myself done my coronavirus testing, which is fortunately negative. We have tested all our hospital employees and all retested some, and who have tested positive after being quarantined. So the key in this is contact tracing and testing. And treatment is given only to people with severe symptoms, and rest are quarantined for a 14-day period and retested. This is very important. Smell and taste abnormalities. Call it the STA abnormalities. Anosmia and ageusia is seen in 11 to 12% patients, especially in younger population with female preponderance. Here I'll share the good news with you. I had written a research paper on this anosmia and ageusia in COVID positive patients in our hospital with one Professor Raid from Anbar University, Iraq, and the paper has been accepted in an international journal indexed by Springer Agency, California, and only today we have got the preprint out this morning, and with a letter that they have found it very interesting, and they are forwarding the paper to WHO for further studies in COVID and research work. So the paper would be most likely out in a week or 10 days time. Any of you are interested, you can just drop me a line in my email. I'd be glad to send it to you. Mechanism of action. Okay, ACE2 inhibitors, that is angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, are mainly in the mouth and tongue. The virus affects the taste and smell, similar to ACE2 inhibitors. The study shows that the virus affects the non-neuronal olfactory cells causing these symptoms. This study has also been taken by Harvard Medical School, incidentally. Average duration for the sense of smell and taste to return is 6.89 days approximately. This is according to our own study. And I say our own study because this has been accepted for research by WHO, and it is soon coming out in indexed international journal. Therefore, these investigations are opening the door for the rhinologist for further studies. We should be aware of one strange coronavirus syndrome in kids. In children, this is multi-system inflammatory syndrome. This is a post-viral syndrome. It is because of the poor immune response of the patient, and the patients may present with fever, poor heart and kidney functions, red eyes, red tongue, cracked or chapped lips. So ENT specialists should be on the lookout for these symptoms in their patients. And treatment consists of blood thinners and immune modulators. We'll have a look at the situation report in Qatar. As of now, as of today, approximately 5 lakh people have been tested in this country, with approximately 5,000 testing per day. 18% have been shown to be positive, out of which expatriates are 13 and local Arabs 5. As you are aware, Qatar is going to hold the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So for the preparation of the stadiums, lot of expatriate workers are being hired from the Asian countries. So most of them are from the lower middle or the lower socioeconomic strata. So their living conditions are not really up to the mark. So mostly COVID cases have been detected in them and in the blue collar workers. So more than a lakh people have recovered till now, like I showed you in the chart. Only 164 deaths till now. It's actually 166 because at the time of preparation it was 164, but as of now today's figure is 166. Still, it is considered quite low. So there is approximately 3,000 people in the country with active disease. Now 374, this has become less than 300 as of now, infected in the last 24 hours, which is a very encouraging sign. Now less than 300 people have been infected in last 24 hours. It's a very encouraging sound. So Qatar is gradually lifting up the lockdowns. Two phases have been lifted. Third phase will be lifted after a couple of days on the 1st of August. Fourth phase will start from the 1st of September. So just praying to God, keeping our fingers crossed that things should be all right within a month or so. Now we should be aware of a certain segment of patients who change their history. Okay, change their history of the symptoms and travel according to their convenience, place, and time because of the phobia and stigma attached to the disease. Like the greeter nurse, they give some history of the symptoms and travel. When they actually come to the doctor, the history changes at the time of going out. They have a different history of symptoms and travel. So, according to the position and the convenience and to whom they are giving the history, the symptoms of the patient changes. This I have seen in many places. So the order of the day these days is the new normal. New normal is the hand washing, the masks, the sanitization, the social distancing 1.5 meters from each other, restraint from social gatherings, etc. You'll have a look at the corona check in Qatar. I'm stressing on Qatar because I'm staying here. Like I told you, there's all travel bans since last 4 to 5 months, and only information we can collate the information only from the electronic media. Even print media was absent. So first case was confirmed in this country on 27th February this year, and number of deaths have been relatively low compared to the reported cases, and this is attributed to the country's adequate healthcare system and the fact that high proportion of residents are young and healthy. So the fatality rate works out to only 0.15%, which is very low. It has one of the lowest COVID deaths, like I told you, due to the Ministry of Public Health being proactive and doing extensive testing, and that too free of cost. And specialized screening centers are earmarked along with quarantine centers for people who test positive and have mild symptoms. So the phobia has been removed from the people that if I catch COVID, I'm gone. It is not like that here. So the state is taking care of the people who are unable to get themselves treated or quarantine themselves. So the public is urged to be vigilant as COVID is not yet over. This is a new thing which they have started about a couple of weeks back. This is the coronavirus swabbing drive-through hubs. So people drive through in their cars and people just take the swabs. But taking the swabs also here, this is very important. I forgot to mention that, so I'll mention here. The correct technique of taking the nasal and the oropharyngeal swabs is also very important. Yesterday, I was watching television. I saw on television in some couple of countries, one person is sitting in a van and the windows are open. There's a lady and a small kid. Okay, there's a 40 plus old lady and the kid maybe for 12, 13 years old. He's just shoving that swab stick into the nose straight away. It's not that is not the way the test is to be done. A light source is required. The patient needs to be seated on a chair, and the head of the patient has to be tilted 70 degrees. And then the swab stick, which is to be inserted into the nose, is approximately how much to go inside. That is approximately 3.5 to 4 centimeters. That is half the distance between the corner of the mouth, the angle of the mouth to the ears. And in children, it is even less. This is how the nasal swab test is done, and for the oral, and the thin stick is used for this, and the thick stick used for the oral swabbing. Oral swabbing, the mouth is held open with a light source inside. A light source is put inside, flashed inside, and tongue is depressed, and the tonsils are swabbed in a to and fro fashion. In a to and fro fashion, that is how we get the swabs correctly. And for the nasal swab, for the nasopharynx, once it reaches the nasopharynx 3.5 to 4 centimeters, then a twisting action for 10 to 15 seconds has to be done. So this is how the swabbing is done. This is the swabbing drive-through hubs. So here people are randomly called. They are contacted by telephone and receive SMS appointment. IDs are verified, results are delivered, and these are praiseworthy effort and lauded by many. And simultaneously, the Ministry of Public Health, along with our organization, Primary Healthcare Corporation and Namath Medical Corporation, which is the biggest hospital in this country, they have started the White Army to combat the coronavirus. So this is the heroes. These children are made the heroes of the White Army. They are given the coloring books with their names written on it. So to educate them about the COVID. So this is the first line of defense against viruses and diseases around the world. So White Army, they are helping thousands of patients and infected people get rid of their pain and maintain their health. So the coloring book of the White Army with the child's name can be downloaded from the website. This is considered a great effort by the Ministry of Public Health, Qatar. A big thank you for all the health workers from the White Army is rendered for their humanitarian efforts and sacrifices in COVID fighting. In the Gulf, the Qatar and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, have stepped in quite timely, so they have been able to contain the spread of the disease to a certain extent as compared to other countries. So they have been able to achieve almost a flat curve now. Unfortunately, as I showed you in the table, Iran, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, they were late risers, so those places became the epicenter of spreading the disease. So the bottom line is money. Money is very important. Using disposable PPE for each and every OPD patients, testing of health personnel and asymptomatic carriers. Some people think testing of health personnel and asymptomatic carriers is wastage of countries' healthcare resources, which are very scarce in many countries. I hear horror stories from my friends in many countries. They are wearing one face shield in the morning and they are discarding it in the evening. And like I told you, today morning I saw 16 patients. I used 16 face shields. So money definitely has got a role to play for the aprons, for the hazmat suits, for the caps, the masks, the face shields. So one has to be very careful. These countries, the UAE and Qatar, they have spent money like water, so that has borne them some results also compared to the other countries. Regular inspection and personal responsibility for it is the responsibility of each individual, and it is needed to ensure coronavirus protocol. Plasma donation has also been started. They see a rise in plasma donation from COVID-19 recovered patients. And here I'd like to say UAE got health personnel from the southernmost state of Kerala on 3 times payment, where India government struggling to make payments to the doctors and nurses. Certain municipalities have not been able to pay. We read the reports in the news, print, and the electronic media. But Fly Dubai, a private airline, they got temporary license for the doctors and nurses, and from Kerala, India, they got the people to help in the COVID work. Temporary license and 3 times salary, they have gladly come and they are working here. Last but not the least, COVID-19 disease continues to spread across the world following a trajectory that is difficult to predict. Therefore, we are learning new aspects of this disease every day, and we have to equip ourselves according to the presenting circumstances. The health, humanitarian, and socio-economic policies adopted by countries will determine the speed and strength of recovery from this pandemic. So thus, there must be a global human-centered response which is grounded in solidarity. Let's all pray to God that it's over soon. Thank you. Alone together. This is my email, dracharyad@yahoo.co.in. If any of you are interested, you can get back to me. Any questions, I'll be more than glad